Hi, it's Joella Milan. And if you have a hiatal hernia or a huge hiatal hernia, you need to watch this video. There's a lot of information. I'm going to talk to you about my hiatal hernia surgery. I did a video before this, which I'm going to link below, and I'll link it at the end of this video. And you need to watch it. The first video that I did, it's about I go through about 7 years of what I went through with my hiatal hernia issues that I went through, not knowing that I knew I had a huge hiatal hernia, and I was told not to worry about it for 7 years. And I showed you all the different stages of what I went through until we finally got to the point when I needed surgery. And you need to watch that video because there's so many videos online on hiatal hernias, and most of them, some of them have some great information about what it is, but I don't find there's a lot of great videos about what to do about it, because I know for myself, I used to look at these videos, they'd say jump up and down, or massage it down, or do this, do that, and none of them did anything, because it gets to the point when it gets so bad that you need to do something, and that's what I would like to keep you from experiencing. I know I have, just in the last, couple months, I have 2 people that went through what I went through, and their doctors kept putting them off. And one of them already now had her surgery, and I have another friend that is going to have her surgery. Her other doctor wanted her to put her on some medication, so he said, so you'll never have to have surgery. Well, then she went to a hiatal hernia specialist, and he's like, you've got to get this surgery now. It's really bad. It was affecting her heart and everything. So that's why I want you to watch this, because I'm not a doctor, and I'm only giving you my advice, what I went through. So, I want to make that very clear. I'm not giving you any medical advice. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm just telling you what I went through. But I do want you to watch my other video because it's important. It might seem slow, but I go through every little stage. As silly as you think some of the things I talk about are, they were all signs that I had this hiatal hernia. So, getting on to the surgery part now, what happened was that I got to the part where I couldn't even eat anymore. My food would be here. I couldn't eat. I would cough all the time. I was so miserable. And again, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's all I was ever told. Don't worry about it. And then I finally got to the hiatal hernia specialist, and he's like, oh my God, this is like one of the worst ones I've ever seen. And that's what the radiologist said too. And so I want to have you not go through that. So I did go for my surgery. It's been 2 years now, 2 years this month. Can you believe that? And I'm still having issues. And that's because I waited too long to have my surgery. That's the truth. And again, it wasn't my fault. It was the doctors that told me don't worry about it. So I want to make that clear too. So I went in for my surgery, and I have to say it was wonderful. The hospital was great. I haven't got one complaint about that. So the surgery went fine. You have to stay in the hospital for 2 days unless you have some other complications of whatever. So the one thing I will tell you which they remind you, but you get 5 incisions in your stomach, just small incisions. And they fill your stomach with gaps for the surgery. I guess it gives them more room in there to do whatever. But the following day, you get the worst pain in your left shoulder. It really hurts, and you need to be in the hospital because they will give you pain medication. But that's the only discomfort that I had, was the left shoulder. So I had my surgery, and then I was sent home, and they tell you to pretty much live on bouillon and just things to drink for 3 weeks. And they tell you you'll lose 15 pounds. Well, I had 200 calories a day for 3 weeks, and I don't know why, but I didn't lose any weight at all. That was a little disappointing. So after the 3 weeks of bouillon, then I went to soft foods, eggs, and, just whatever I could eat that was soft. And that part was good, but it's not like you do that. They tell you, they give these increments of time, but it doesn't really kind of go that way. It gets to the part after the 3 weeks and then the soft food, you kind of have to figure out for yourself what you could eat, because some things will set you off and some things won't. Now here's the good part. I've after 2 years, I'll tell you with this, I could write a book on, I could make it blunt and say I could write a book about poop. I'm telling you, the changes that you will see, we'll call it bowel movements, or it turns out to be IBS, but that's where your biggest changes are. And you'll start having those issues, I don't know, it could be after 3 weeks. In the beginning, your system's very, you go through a lot of changes on there. So, and at that point, I couldn't vomit. I did a lot of dry heaving in the beginning, where I would, you dry heave like you want to vomit, but you don't. So I did a lot of dry heaving and then a lot of the bowel movements. So that went on for a while. Actually, it went on for quite a while. So those are the longest issues that I've had. But as I progressed, the dry heaving turned into vomiting. And that's where my biggest challenge was after the surgery. I still do, not as bad, but vomiting, and which they said I had IBS. So between vomiting and IBS, that was the hardest part. And I've gone to so many doctors. I've had so many, the MRIs, CAT scans. I've gone to so many gastroenterologists. I've had so many of everything, trying to figure out what's going on there. And basically, the last doctor that I saw, he goes, your hernia was so bad that this is why your complications, and you're still having these issues after 2 years, because it was so bad, it should have never got to this point. And if you would have had the surgery earlier, which again, I was told, no way from the doctors, I wouldn't have had this happen. So that's what I wanted to warn you about today, is again, I want you to watch my video, because it's got some very good signs that you don't realize. And that's like the two people I talked to at the beginning of this video. I kept telling them, you've got a hiatal hernia, you've got to go get it checked. And they had a lot of these signs, which the other doctors just kind of blew off and didn't take it serious. But you've got to see the steps that I went through. And if you get to the point where you're, even beforehand, throwing up a lot, from bile from the food, or you have problems eating, and like with mine, my stomach was on top of my lungs. Can you believe that? That's how far it was. It was up here, and then you have a hard time breathing. You can't even hardly walk because you've got all this pressure on here from your stomach being on top of your lungs, and I don't want you to go through that. So I would say too, with working. I mean, I still work like 12 hours a day, and I was working the whole time after my surgery, but I had brain fog, and just a lot of things. Or you'd be talking to someone on the phone, and next thing you know, you had to go to into the bathroom. So, there are some good pills, and I'm not talking about any of that on the phone. And if you have any questions, or not on the phone, on the video, I'm not going to talk about that. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to call me. I'm not going to recommend any medication to you, because that's up to your doctor. But, I will give you some suggestions if you need it. But my biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is, if your doctor, you need to go to hiatal hernia doctor. Do not go to your regular doctor, your internist, a general practitioner, even a gastroenterologist. They mean well, but that's not their specialty. And you need to go to a hiatal hernia specialist. Even a regular hernia doctor. Most of them don't deal with hiatal hernias, and you need to go to a specialist. And that's what I did. And, you know, as soon as he, in fact, this part, I brought it up in the other video, but for 7 years, I had low iron. I went to all these doctors. Nobody knew why. I was bleeding internally. More tests. I mean, 7 years I went through this. 7 years. And the first thing, when I went to the specialist, he goes, do you have low iron? You know, have you been bleeding internally? And I said, yes. And he goes, that's from your hernia. Right there. Can you believe that after 7 years that's the first thing he asked me. So I want you to listen to me and watch this video, watch my first one. And then if you have any questions, you're welcome to call me on my toll-free number or send me an email. And I will have the information below. And I look forward to talking to you, and I am hoping this video helps you. Thank you. Bye.